So I saw the video with Elon Musk giving the salute.
You know, there are elections that come and go. Some elections are, important. Some are not. But this one, this one really mattered. And I just want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
That very, very strange gesture. And he didn't wave his hand. He didn't just say hello in a very normal fashion. No. The guy literally went all the way with the Nazi salute. Yes, he wasn't like this. He wasn't like this. He wasn't like this. He went full out. The blade of his hand was straight as a katana. Just whoop, whoop. I mean, and he does it twice to make sure that everyone gets the message, that everyone gets the clue as to what he's doing. He is going full National Socialist Nazi salute. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me at all because, well, I've been telling you guys about Musk for years now. I've been writing about him. I've been talking about him, and I've talked about his affiliations. I've talked about his agenda. The guy openly endorses the AfD party, which is the biggest far-right nationalist party in Germany. And he wrote an article in support of the AfD saying that the AfD is the only hope that Germany has. The only hope for Germany is this far-right, ultra-nationalist party that has Nazi sentiments within it. If you do just some research on the AfD, you will find out that one of its leaders, Björn Höcke, is a Nazi. He used to write for Nazi publications. He wrote articles praising the Third Reich. And he spoke about his disdain for Holocaust memorials in Germany. And according to Musk, this party is Germany's only hope. And I talked to you guys about how Musk supports the BJP, how he will censor, on X, he will censor any sort of accounts that are critical of the BJP. And the BJP will go to Musk, or they'll go to X, and they'll say, censor these people, censor these accounts that are critical of the BJP. The BJP, for those of you who don't know, is the ultra-nationalist Hindu party that is dominating India and has been dominating India for the past 10 years or so. And the BJP is hardcore enthusiastic about censoring their enemies. And so when you have these accounts on Indian accounts on X/Twitter that are critical of the BJP will go to Musk and say, censor them, censor these bastards. And Musk will comply. He will acquiesce. And he supports the BJP. He supports Narendra Modi, the leader of the BJP, who is now the leader of India. He's been the leader of India for a long time now, going back to 2014. And he congratulated Narendra Modi's electoral victory recently. And you'll say, well, that's all politics, that's all business. But the reality is that Musk will bash other politicians. So he will bash centrist politicians, but he will praise far-right politicians like Modi, like Höcke, like Alice Weidel. And he interviewed Alice Weidel, she's the chancellor, she's running for chancellery of Germany, and she's now the face of the AfD. And he interviewed her. And he told people, Alice Weidel is great, or Weidel, however you say her last name. Alice Weidel is great, she's amazing, but if you do some research on Alice Weidel, what do you find out? You find out that she refuses to celebrate the defeat of Nazi Germany. And she was invited to celebrate May Day, which is the day that Europeans observe to celebrate the defeat of the Third Reich. She was invited to celebrate May Day at the Russian embassy, and she says, "No, I refuse to celebrate the defeat of my country with Russians because the Russians defeated my country and they occupied half of my country." So she's a Nazi. This is like if someone were to come out and say, "I refuse to celebrate the defeat of Hamas in Israel because, well, I don't want to celebrate that." Well, you support Hamas because remember, Hamas invaded Israel on October the 7th and they killed people. They did atrocities. And Israel drove them out of Israel. The Israeli military forces drove them out of Israel. Now, that's a good thing that they were driven out. So if someone were to come out and say, "I refuse to celebrate the defeat of Hamas in Israel," they support terrorism, Islamic terrorism. It's quite obvious. So Alice Weidel is a Nazi. She comes from a family of Nazis. Bjorn Höcke, who is now, who has been one of the big faces of the AfD, he's a Nazi. And according to Musk, these people are Germany's only hope, Deutschland's only hope. And so you see what? Sympathy for German nationalism. You see sympathy for Hindu nationalism. And not only that, but censoring accounts that are critical of the Hindu Nationalist Party in India. And then you see the photograph that Musk took of his bedside table. And on the table, you can see the Vajra, which is a major Hindu symbol. And according to Hinduism, it's considered to be a very powerful symbol. And he has this on the photo. It's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that we are dealing with what? A Nazi. The Nazis loved Hinduism because Hinduism is the oldest, most preserved pagan religion, specifically Indo-European pagan religion that we have. We have Hindu scriptures that were written by the Aryans going back thousands of years ago. And so the Nazis were super fascinated with Hinduism because they wanted to find out about the Aryans and the Indo-European religion and the Aryan migration. And that's why the Nazis had their own team of archaeologists who went to Nepal and they went to different countries to investigate the origins of the Aryans. And you see Elon Musk, sympathetic to Hindu nationalism, German nationalism, he's a Nazi. And I did a video about this some weeks ago. It's called the Elon Musk Deception. Well, that's on the thumbnail. The title of the video is Techno-fascism. You can go watch it. And it's about an hour-long video, and I just lay it all out. I give out all the information about Musk and why he's evil. And the reason why I have put out numerous videos about Musk is to try to educate people. You see, I look at my audience as people who want to learn. And I do these videos because I want to help people be informed about what's happening in the world. Because what's happening in the world is not the same damn thing that was happening back in the 1990s or the early 2000s or the early 2010s. What's happening in the world right now is a major transition. We are in a major transition point in which we are transitioning back to history, back to the past. So back in the past, we had what? We had Henry Ford, we had Sosthenes Ben, we had these major industrialists who were supporting eugenics and who were supporting Nazism and who admired Adolf Hitler. And these were very wealthy people. Sosthenes Ben was the one who was running IT&T. You had Henry Ford, the guy who came up with the first American car. I mean, these were major industrialists, and they supported Nazism, and they loved Adolf Hitler. They admired him, and they were supporting Nazi Germany. They were doing commercial dealings with Nazi Germany. And so today we have what? We have the Henry Ford of our time, Musk. And what is he doing? He is supporting what? German nationalism, ultra-German nationalism. And so I've done all these videos exposing this reality. I've written numerous articles on this topic going back to 2020, specifically on Elon Musk. And the reason why I've done all this work is to try to inform people, because I have noticed that there is an immense unwillingness to be informed about the reality of this evil, this dark reality. And you have people who will watch my videos or they'll read my articles and they will misrepresent what I'm saying, and then they'll try to make that misrepresentation into what I was trying to say. And then they'll try to argue against a straw man. And people do this all the time. I'll do a video about, let's say, the Freedom Party in Austria. The Freedom Party in Austria was founded by an actual SS member. And now it's the most popular party in Austria. It's a Nazi party. And in fact, several members of the Austrian Freedom Party were caught singing a song that was created by the Waffen-SS, a Waffen-SS song. They were chanting this at a funeral for a fellow Freedom Party member. And these were members. These are members of this party. And right now they have what? They have a huge popularity within Austria. And now they are the most popular party in that country. So what's happening? It's a transition. It's a turning point in which we are returning back to history. And so I'll try to tell people about these things. And what do people tell me? Now, you do have people who will agree with me and they'll say, hey, Ted, thank you for exposing this stuff. Thank you for shedding light on this dark reality. But then you have the assholes. All right, I'll be very, very frank. You have the assholes. And they come along, and what do? Well, I think you just hate America. What? What the? I think you just hate white people. What? What? How do I hate white people? How am I biased against white people? I'm warning you guys about the rise of Nazism. And Nazism led to the deaths of over 100 million white people, all right? Tons of white people, tens of millions of white people were butchered because of Nazism, because they went to war, and then you had the white Poles who were butchered by the Germans, and you had the white Russians who were butchered by the Germans, and then you had the millions of Germans who were killed in this whole quagmire, this whole nightmare. Croatians butchered Serbs, Albanians butchered Serbs, Bosnians were killing people. I mean, it was a whole cluster, a whole blender of slaughter and mayhem and bloodshed. And who were the biggest victims? Was it not white folks? So how can I be against white people if I'm warning you guys about the very ideology that led to the deaths of so many white people? But let's go back to this Elon Musk character. It's not surprising. And I told you guys in one of my prior videos on Elon Musk that the guy is a Nazi. And I said he's helping the Nazis in Germany. He's helping the AfD in Germany, which is a Nazi party. And for some reason, for some strange reason, Americans really just don't give a damn. And not only that, but if you look at Musk's ideology, it's eugenics. It's absolute eugenics. It's the Neuralink. He wants everyone to have this computer chip in their brains because he believes that by having this computer chip, this Neuralink chip implanted into your noggin, into your brain, you're going to be smarter. You're going to be more efficient. It's transhumanist Nazism. It's techno-fascism. That's what this is. It's techno-fascism. It's the new Nazism in which they believe in genetically engineering humanity by merging man with artificial intelligence. Whereas back in the Third Reich days, it was about genetically engineering humanity through sterilization. But it's the same evil. There's a slight difference because of the technological advancement that we have, but it's the same evil. It's about re-engineering humanity, remaking man into some lunatic's image. And it goes back to that verse in the Bible where God says, all those who hate me love death. And what do you see in the transhumanist ideology? Embryo selection, conceiving babies in laboratories, and then saying, well, this embryo has the genetics that we're looking for, but these other embryos, well, they're not quite fitting for what we want. Into the trash bin they go. It's a complete disregard for the sacredness of human life. It's a complete disregard of human life. And don't be surprised if they start applying that same logic to already born people. Well, this human being has the genes that we're looking for, but these other humans, they just don't quite cut it. Into the camps they go. Into the camps they go. But you see this Elon Musk guy. He has all the trappings of a modern-day techno-Nazi, and people just didn't believe me. People were laughing at any sort of observation that said that Elon Musk is a Nazi, or at least something bordering with a Nazi. And then what do you see Elon Musk doing at the inauguration parade for Donald Trump? He does. I mean, the blade of his hand is straight. Now, the media at times has played this game where they get a politician that they don't like, and the politician's doing this or something like that, right? Let me just make sure that the camera picks this up, right? The politician will do something like this or something like that, and they'll take a photo of that and they'll say, yeah, far right, blah, 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 and they'll try to get just the right image, the right shot to make it look like the guy's doing a Hitler salute. And I've seen this sort of game that being played by the media, and so I never really bought that sort of thing, never really got into it, because it's not evidence, right? It's not clear, it's not explicit. But Musk doing... And he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. He is making the Nazis on his website salivate. And they're salivating as we speak. They're salivating as I'm doing this video right now. This is a wet dream for them. But you'll think to yourself, well, why is he doing this? Why would he do this out in the open? Because he's so confident, due to the fact that there are so many Nazis on X. He is so enthusiastically confident because there are so many Nazis on his website. And he knows there's not going to be any repercussions. And if the media attacks him, and they're doing that already, no one's going to give a damn because so many people hate the media. Right now, the media is the mainstream media, or what we consider the mainstream media, right? The alphabet media outlets, they're dying out. They are being defeated by social media platforms. X is the #1 place that people go to get their news. They're not going individually to all these news websites, New York Times, Washington Post, Politico, BBC. They're not doing that. They're just going on to X. And they're getting facts from X, but they're also getting a lot of craziness from X, a lot of crazy, sick Nazism. And there's a lot of Jew hatred on X. And there's so much of an inundation of this stuff that Musk doesn't care. He knows he's on the winning side. And by winning side, I'm not talking about the moral side. I'm talking about the side that's dominating the zeitgeist, the side that's dominating the metapolitical sphere of the world. And so he knows this. So the media is going to say, and they're already saying this, the media is saying, look, Musk is doing the Nazi salute. The world attacks the media. They're not attacking Musk. So what's happening right now? It's a transition point. And we are now living in an era where everything is in the open. There's no shame. People aren't trying to hide fanaticism anymore, or try to hide any sort of collaboration with fanaticism anymore. We saw this at the beginning of the Russo-Ukrainian war in 2022. The West openly supporting Ukrainian Nazis. And when people were saying, oh, look, Nazis in Ukraine, the mainstream media started to what? Support the mainstream, to support the Ukrainian Nazis. And when people were saying, look, Azov Battalion is in Ukraine, they're Nazis, people were coming out, NATOists, sycophants were coming out saying, Ukrainian Nazism is A-OK, Slava Ukraina, Slava Herodium, Herodium Slava, whatever. You know the mantras. It was out in the open. Back in the day, they used to tell us that Al-Qaeda was the enemy. They said Al-Qaeda did 9/11. We're fighting Al-Qaeda. But you see, that was before the era where everyone was going onto the internet for their news. And so people trusted the government more back in the early 2000s, back in the 80s and in the 90s. People trusted the government more because people weren't going on X and people didn't have iPhones. People weren't going online to get the news. So they just read the mainstream narrative. Al-Qaeda is the enemy. We're fighting Al-Qaeda. And then people eventually found out, wait a second, our country has actually been supporting Al-Qaeda. Our country has actually been supporting the Mujahideen, supporting Islamic fundamentalism. And the reason why we got 9/11 is because of America's support of Al-Qaeda. But you see, they were trying to hide that. Fast forward to now, and what do we see? We see al-Jawlani running Syria, and the guy is Al-Qaeda. And back at, just a few years ago, it wasn't until just, a few weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago that al-Jawlani was on an American wanted list, and the U.S. government was offering a $10 million bounty on al-Jawlani's head. And then guess what? We literally see the U.S. government openly supporting al-Jawlani and meeting with al-Jawlani and meeting with his terrorist organization, HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. And I remember when the U.S. government first started openly working with al-Jawlani in Syria, and they were saying, yeah, this is the new leader of Syria. We got rid of the eye doctor, Assad, now we have a terrorist. I went to go see the $10 million reward post that the U.S. government published, and it was still on there. The U.S. government did not get rid of the bounty. Even when they were openly working with al-Jawlani, it was still up there for a while. They eventually got rid of it, but it was up there for a while. I'm thinking, man, are they getting phone calls for this? Like, hey, I know where he's at. I see his face on the news. Give me the $10 million. It's out in the open. They're working with this guy out in the open. They don't give a damn. You have, back in the day, the far right of Germany. I mean, you had Nazis back in the day, but when the AfD first popped up, they were sort of they were a party that was focused on economics. Then they quickly transitioned into nationalism. But they were talking about immigration, and they were more focused on immigration, and they're still focused on immigration, but then you started to see the party talking about Holocaust memorials. Well, what does Holocaust memorials have to do with mass immigration from the third world? What do Holocaust memorials have to do with immigration coming in from the Middle East or Africa? Why are you guys talking about the Jews? Why are you guys expressing your spite against memorials that were built in memory of what your people did to the Jews? Oh, because you guys are Nazis and you love the Nazis. And that's why you'll read a story about an AfD member saying, "We miss you, Hitler. Please come back. Please come back." They're not even trying to hide it anymore. For so many decades, the Vatican priesthood has been riddled with homosexuals and riddled with pedophiles and pederasts. And the Catholics would try to water this down. No, everything is great. This is the church founded by Jesus. And then you see the news just, last week, a week or so ago, the Vatican says, yeah, we're going to embrace sodomites into the seminary. We're going to embrace them in the priesthood. They're not even trying to hide it. Not even trying to hide it. The Pope came out and said that we need to have same-sex civil unions. Not even trying to hide it. Elon Musk, for years, the guy has been backing all sorts of sick ideologies like transhumanism. The guy has shown his favor towards Hindu nationalism. He has shown explicitly his favor towards far-right ultra-German nationalism and an ultra-far-right German nationalist party that has Nazis in its highest ranks. But he was saying that they're not Nazis. He was trying to hide it. And then you see this guy going before the entire world, not even trying to hide it. And Trump needs to get rid of this guy. That's my opinion, but who knows what's going to happen. But we see this insanity right before our eyes, and I can just imagine the rage within the upper echelons of the Republican Party after this. I'm just imagining some politician saying, this guy could have done 50 freaking things. He could have waved his autistic hands in the air. He could have waved at the American people. He could have waved at the crowd. He could have clapped his hands. He could have done 50 freaking things. This moron. But it doesn't matter, because the train has been set. The train has been set, and that train is ultranationalism, and it's rising and rising and rising, and it's only getting bigger every year. And you have people who will say, no, Ted, this, it's just a trend, or it's going to go down, or it's not bad, it's harmless, nothing bad's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. That's what they said about Adolf Hitler. When Adolf Hitler was chosen to be the Chancellor of Germany, the people who chose him thought that they could control him. They thought that they could control Adolf Hitler, and they were wrong. And they created a Frankenstein. They created a Leviathan that went out of control. Went out of control. And it's only going to get worse, and we see this nationalism increasing. And yesterday, or a couple of days ago, I saw this video of a young Trump supporter. This guy wasn't a Zoomer. He was part of Generation Alpha. And he was asked what he thought about illegal immigrants. And he basically expressed his utter hatred towards illegal immigrants. And he said, "Get out of our country, you pieces of shit." And the guy asked this young man, this young nationalist, "Would you ever be friends with an illegal immigrant?" And he said, "No."
What are you excited about for having Donald Trump as the president?
I'm excited that he will finally give us a closed border once again.
What's your message to all the illegal immigrants?
Get the hell out of our country, you disgusting pieces of shit.
Hey, don't talk like that.
Would you ever be friends with an illegal immigrant?
Never.
Never. Would you be friends with a liberal?
No.
Now, this mentality is pretty much the same mentality that the Jews had for the Samaritans at the time of Christ. The Samaritans were the enemy. The Samaritans were not our neighbors. The Samaritans were just our nemesis. And Jesus wanted to reverse all of that. And he went to this educated Jewish man and he said, love your neighbor. And the guy said, well, who is my neighbor? And Jesus brought up the story of the Samaritan who saves the life of a Jew. And Jesus brought up that story to reverse this indiscriminate hatred that was rampant in Judea against the Samaritans. And so I will apply this same teaching to the illegal. What if an illegal immigrant saved your life? Would you then continue on with this very viciousness? Would you then still say that you would never be friends with an illegal immigrant? The problem is that people are stripping themselves of their humanity. And you could say, well, he's young and he'll grow out of it. And maybe he will. Maybe he will grow out of it, right? We always have to have hope. But that hatred is growing, and I think it's going to be worse in Generation Alpha. The millennials were basically just cat people who want to play video games. Zoomers are just weird. They got their eraser head buzz cuts, and they're just kind of gay looking. Not all of them, but too many of them. I'll just put it that way. But then you have Generation Alpha, and Generation Alpha is a strange predicament. I wrote an article about Generation Alpha years ago. And what I found out in my research is that there is this prediction in regards to Generation Alpha that says that Generation Alpha will be extremely nationalistic. And you're seeing it, right? You're seeing it. And if it doesn't stop, if this trend continues on, it's only going to get worse. And right now, it's just rhetoric. Right now, you're seeing it in Germany, you're seeing it in Austria, you're seeing it in the Netherlands, you're seeing it in Italy. But what I fear is that this is going to escalate from rhetoric, from the realm of the meta, from the realm of rhetoric, into the realm of actual bloodshed, violence, and even genocide. And I talked about this in my last video, the rise of Darwinism, and why Darwinism is so destructive and so dangerous. The reason why it's so dangerous is because Charles Darwin taught that genocide is natural, that genocide has always been here, that one race exterminating another race is simply a natural phenomenon that is a part, or that is an innate part of the human condition. And by making that argument, Darwin provided a scientific argument in favor of genocide. And so when Europeans begin to implement or begin to orchestrate genocides, be it the Germans genociding the people in Namibia, be it white Australians genociding Aboriginals, be it the Ottoman Empire exterminating the Armenians, these genocides all had one thing in common, and that was that they utilized Darwinism. And yes, the Ottoman Empire utilized Darwinism during the Armenian genocide. This is an unknown fact. It's a very obscurely known fact, but it is the truth. Yes, Islam did play a role, but the people who were orchestrating the Armenian genocide, they were atheist. They weren't Muslims. The Young Turks, they were Darwinists, hardcore Darwinists who followed Charles Darwin, and they believed in evolution, and they were hardcore followers of Herbert Spencer, the one who coined the term survival of the fittest. And so they believed that by exterminating another race, that they were simply being nature. They were simply doing something that was natural. And so you see a lot more people getting into this fixation with IQ, fixation with connecting evolutionism with IQ, this fixation with Darwinism. And you can see this phenomenon. It's been going on for the past 10 years or so. The huge popularity in the past for people like Stefan Molyneux, or the popularity for people like the guy who wrote the Bell Curve book, Mr. Murray. All this entire phenomenon is an indication that Darwinism is growing in popularity. Elon Musk saying that if you don't get the Neuralink, you're not going to be as efficient as someone who has the Neuralink, and it's going to be a re-engineering of humankind, and that it's going to be a next step into the process of human evolution. This is all Darwinism. And so with this popularity of Darwinism growing, what's going to come about from this evil delusion is a sympathy towards the idea of genocide. Going back to what Charles Darwin taught, in which this is what Darwin taught, that when two unequal races go head to head, the superior will exterminate the inferior, thereby arguing that one race exterminating the other is simply a demonstration of the superiority of the exterminating race, and also demonstrating the inferiority of the race that is being genocided, simply from the fact that they are being genocided. And then saying it's all natural. So with the rise of Darwinism will come a favorable view towards genocide. And you see Turkey rising up, and they want to kill the Armenians. You see Turkey and Syria. They're right next to Israel. They hate the Jews. You see the rise of ultra-German nationalism. You see Turkey talking about invading Israel. You see just this entire phenomenon in which we are transitioning back to the past. Turkey with its reviving of its Ottoman Empire, Germany wanting to revive its military strength, Israel going back to Jewish fanaticism. It's all this return to the insanity of history. And that's why I say that we are living in the Twilight Zone. Anyway, guys, you just heard some theology. God bless.